Oh. Hi, now I'm just waiting for people to show up. The viewers tab I update slowly, so bonk. It was true that I ran into the horse. No, thank you, my little cabbagelet.
Ready?
Yes. Thank you.
I'll see you in the stream.
Yes, you will. Hello. You did. Holy crap. You are sparkling. I imagine a little tingle. Bing. A sparkle. You are sparkling. You feel refreshed. There's something that's way less leaden. God willing, there won't be a single end low. Well, I don't mind. I'm not like Napoleon or anything like that. Don't get me wrong. I prefer it being a more metaphorical filthiness. You know, like you're just drinking hard liquor straight, and the bottle's still in the paper bag, and cussing every second word. Ah, damn Canadians. Fucking glug. It's been quite some time since I even touched mean old brown liquor. Oh no! Here's the thing: is you multitask that stuff. You put the salmiakki in, then you cuss with the salmiakki already in. Oh, let's not do any of that. Although I am told by some reliable sources that wanting to kill yourself just a little bit is the standard of Finnish living, but I have taken it unto myself to choose to be optimistic. I'm also not a Finn. To my regret, I admit. I would be a king amongst Finns because of my relatively modest levels of extroversion. Also, I'm feeling very swanky because I've got 2 subscribers. I'm like, ooh, look at me. We're going to clear $5 a month. It's great. But yeah, going back a little bit. Uh, I respect your job, and I'm satisfied with mine. Shall we? I still got a little bit of time. Big money. Heck yeah! I'm gonna be. Yeah, yeah. I think I've been. I don't know how many months. I think it's been close to a year. I've been an affiliate, so we're looking at. I think about $35. Yeah. Buy a nice pizza after a year's work. 8 months. Ah, right. That makes sense. Yeah. You have been a loyal subscriber. I will autograph your anything. You're right, Montreth. I don't, although I do need to. Yeah. I can't compare. I shouldn't even try. I don't need to worry about social media algorithms. I do have to worry about what fancy new cheat mechanisms the kids get up to, but I only have to care so much. I need to catch the brazen ones. Let me tell you about a story instead. Da 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 da. Robert Barr in The Idler says that I question if anything more deliciously humorous and of a humor so restrained has been written since the time of Lamb. Could have done a much better justification than that, I feel. Oh, yeah. I didn't actually have to learn how slot machine algorithms work. I chose to. And yeah, they are inherently broken against the user. The electronic ones more so, because it's actually quite easy to do in terms of code. But even the mechanical ones have like little pins and things in them to ensure that they only pay out every so often. There's a lot of psychology that goes into that. Let's talk about Eliza. Eliza by Barry Payne. Or Barry Bread, as we'd say. Barry Bread. He's kind of like Bunny Bread's grandfather or something, I think. But yeah, they're not just rigged mantras. They are deliberately skewed on purpose to give people a sense that some machines are more winning than others. But it is a fool's errand in a statistical model. But it gives you pleasure to throw coins in there and pull a lever and watch the wheels spin, then Godspeed. But that's what you're paying for. Okay. It was true that I ran into the horse. See page 24. We'll have to wait to page 24 to see why this guy just rammed a horse. Eliza by Barry Pay. Illustrated by Wallace Goldsmith. Copyright 1904. This feels like a much shorter book than before. This is going to be... We'll get this in somewhat reasonable amount of time. Chapter 1. Eliza's Husband. Suppose I said to one of the junior clerks at our office the other day, "You were asked to describe yourself in a few words. Could you do it?" His answer that he could describe me in two was no answer at all. Also, the 2 words were not a description, and were so offensive that I did not continue the conversation. I believe that there are but few people who could give you an accurate description of themselves. Often, in the train to and from the city, or while walking in the street, I think over myself, what I have been, what I am, what I might be if, financially speaking, it would run to it. I imagine how I should act under different circumstances, on the receipt of a large legacy, or if for some specially clever reason I were taken into partnership, or if a mad bull came down the street. I may say that I make a regular study of myself. I have from time to time recorded on paper some of the more important incidents of our married life, affecting Eliza and myself, and I present them to you Gentle reader, in this little volume, I think they show how with a very limited income, and but for occasional assistance from Eliza's mother, I do not know how we should have got along. A man may, to a great extent, preserve respectability, show taste and judgment, and manage his wife and home. The more I think about myself, the more, and I say it in all modesty, the subject seems to grow. I should call myself many-sided and in many respects unlike ordinary men. Oh, this is starting to feel close to home, frankly, folks. That's Frank's, by the way. Take, for instance, the question of taste. Some people would hardly think it worthwhile to mention a little thing like taste, but I do. I'm not rich. But what I have, I like to have ornamental, though not loud. Okay, that's not like me at all. Only the other day, the question of glass cloths for the kitchen turned up, and though those with the red border were 3d a dozen dearer than the plain, I ordered them without hesitation. Eliza charged them next day, contrary to my wishes, and we had a few words about it. But that is not the point. The real point is that if your taste comes out in a matter of glass cloths for the kitchen, it will also come out in antimacassars for the drawing room and higher things. Again, ordinary men that might possibly call themselves my equals, are not careful enough about respectability. Everywhere around me, I see betting on horse races, check trousers on Sunday, the wash hung out in the front garden, whiskey and soda, front steps not properly whitened, and the door handle not up to the mark. I could point to houses where late hours on Sunday are so much the rule that the lady of the house comes down in her dressing gown to take in the milk, which I'm sure Eliza would sooner die than do. There are families, in my own neighborhood, I am sorry to say, where the chimneys are not swept regularly. Beer is fetched in broad daylight, and attendance at a place of worship on Sunday is rather the exception than the rule. Then again, language is an important point. To my mind, nothing marks a respectable man more than the use of genteel language. There may have been occasions when excessive provocation has led me to the use of regrettable expressions, but they have been few. As a rule, I avoid not only what is profane, but also anything that is slangy. I fail to understand this habit, which the present generation has formed of picking up some meaningless phrase and using it in season and out of season. For some weeks, I have been greatly annoyed by the way some of the clerks use the phrase, "What ho, she bumps!" If you ask them, who bumps? Or how? Or why? They have no answer but fits of silly laughter. Probably, before these words appear in print, that phrase will have been forgotten, and another equally ridiculous will have taken its place. It is not sensible. What is worse, it is not to my mind respectable. Do not imagine that I object to humor in conversation. That is a very different thing. I have made humorous remarks myself before now, mostly of a rather cynical and sarcastic kind. Man, this guy today will be posting on Steam forums and complaining about woke. Sorry, what ho, she bumps! I am fond of my home, and any little addition to its furniture or decorations gives me sincere pleasure. Both in the home and in our manner of life, there are many improvements which I am prevented by financial considerations from carrying out. If I were a rich man, I would have the drawing room walls a perfect mass of pictures. If I had money, I could spend it judiciously and without absurdity. I should have the address stamped in gold on the notepaper, and use boot trees, and never be without a cake in the house in case a friend dropped in to tea. Nor should I think twice about putting out an extra clean pair of cuffs in the week if I wanted. We should keep 2 servants. I am interested in the drama, if serious, and 2 or 3 times every month I should take Eliza to the dress circle. Our suburb has a train service which is particularly convenient for the theaters. Eliza would wear a dressy blouse, She shares my objections to anything cut out at the neck, a Macintosh, and a sailor hat, the two latter to be removed before entering. I should carry her evening shoes in a pretty cruel worked bag. We have often discussed it. Curiously enough, she already has the bag, though we seldom have an opportunity to use it in this way. Doubtless, there are many other innovations which, with appropriate means, I could suggest, but I have said enough to show that they would all be in the direction of refinement and elegance, and the money would not be spent in foolishness or vice. I think there's room for both mantras. Dear Facebook, where can I buy a top hat? Dear Google, where can I buy a top hat? Dear Steam, how can I play this game but a non-woke version? You know, where I'm from, men wear top hats. I have 7. As Eliza's husband, I should perhaps say a word or two about her. She is a lady of high principles and great activity. Owing to my absence every day in the exercise of my profession, she is called upon to settle many questions, as, for instance, the other day the question of what contribution, if any, should be given to the local fire brigade, where a word of advice from me would have been useful. If not actually independent, she is certainly not what would be described as a clinging woman. Indeed, she does occasionally take upon herself to enter on a line of action without consulting me, when my advice is perfectly at her disposal, and would perhaps save her from blunders. Last year, she filled the coal cellar, unusually large for the type of house, right up at summer prices. Undoubtedly, she thought that she was practicing an economy, but she was dealing with a coal merchant who does not give credit, a man who requires cash down and sees that he gets it. And, well, I need not go into details here, but it proved to be excessively inconvenient for me. She has lost the silly playfulness, which was rather a mark of her character during the period of our engagement, and if this is due to the sobering effects of association with a steady and thoughtful character, I am not displeased. She says it's the work, but the women do not always know. Possibly, too, her temper is more easily ruffled now than when I point out things to her. I should say that she was less ambitious than myself. I do not mention that these little matters at all by way of finding fault. On the contrary, I have a very high opinion of Eliza. Filled the coal cellar right up at summer prices. Okay. We have no children living. With these few prefatory words, gentle reader, I fling open the front door, to use a metaphorical expression, and invite you to witness a few scenes of our domestic life that I have from time to time recorded. And I say prefatory feels like a word that came out of a rabelais. This bum-wipatory discourse. The cards. We have no children living. Yeah, well, maybe there were no children who were born in the first place, right? No children living's kind of a dodge. She is not just not clinging. She's not even interested in the man in that way. Or at least that's my interpretation. The Cards, Chapter 2. About a year ago, Eliza and myself had a little difference of opinion. I mentioned to her that we had no visiting cards. Of course not, she said. The idea of such a thing! She spoke rather hastily. Why do you say, of course not? I replied quietly. Visiting cards are, I believe, in common use among ladies and gentlemen. She said she did not see what that had to do with it. It has just this much to do with it, I answered. That I do not intend to go without visiting cards another day. What's the use, she asked. We never call on anybody, and nobody ever calls on us. Is Miss Sakers nobody? Well, she's never left a card here, and she really is a lady by birth and can prove it. She just asks the girl to say she's been, and it's nothing of importance, when she doesn't find me in. If she could do without cards, we can. You'd much better go by her. Thank you. I have my own ideas of propriety, and I do not take them from Miss Sakers. I shall order 50 of each sort from Amrod's this morning. Then that makes 100 cards wasted. Either you cannot count, I said, or you have yet to learn that there are 3 sorts of cards used by married people. The husband's cards, the wife's cards, and the cards with both names on it. Go it, said Eliza. Get a card for the cat as well. She knows a lot more cats than we know people. Actually, I just want to pause here. Gee, when we get a cat, we're getting calling cards for the cat, okay? I could have given a fairly sharp retort to that, but I preferred to remain absolutely silent. I thought it might show Eliza that she was becoming rather vulgar. Silence is often the best rebuke. However, Eliza went on. Mother would hate it, I know that, to talk about cards, with the last lot of coals not paid for. I call it wickedness. I simply walked out of the house, went straight down to Amrod's and ordered those cards. When the time comes for me to put my foot down, I can generally put it down as well as most people. No one could be easier to live with than I am, and I am sure Eliza has found it so. But what I say is, if a man is not master in his own house, then where is he? Oh, wow, this guy is special. Oh, we are of like mind, Montreth. We are absolutely of like mind. I would only get cards for the cat if I had a cat. We mean to get one in time, and I would use them everywhere. Hello, you have been visited by the person who lives with Pifa the cat. Here you are. I already have a name in mind. I know you two are sort of wrangling, well, not really wrangling, but both of you like snocks boops. Amrod printed the cards while I waited. I had them done in the Old English character. I suggested some little decoration to give them a tone, an ivy leaf in the corner or a little flourish under the name, but Amrod was opposed to this. He seemed to think it was not essential, and would have been charged extra, and also he had nothing of the kind in stock, so I let that pass. The cards looked very well as they were, a little plain and formal perhaps, but very clean, except in the case of a few where the ink had rubbed, and very gratifying to one's natural self-respect. That evening, I took a small cardboard box that had contained candles and packed in it a few carefully selected flowers from the garden and one of our cards. On the card I wrote, "With kindest love from," just above the names, and posted it to Eliza's mother. So far was Eliza's mother from being offended that she sent Eliza a present of a postal order for 5 shillings, 3 pounds of pressed beef, and a nicely worked apron. On glancing over that sentence, I see that it is perhaps a little ambiguous. The postal order was for the shillings alone, not for the beef or the apron. I only mention the incident to show whether, in this case, Eliza or I was right. Ah. So what do you think? Was Eliza's mother right or wrong? I put a few of my own... They kind of do. The difference is that we were in debt for the coal. I wouldn't go run out and buy a bunch of nonsense. I like to think like I am not that man. I am like the antithesis of that man. But anyway, I shall take that wounding mark in stride. I put a few of my own cards in my letter case, and the rest were packed away in a drawer. A few weeks afterward, I was annoyed to find Eliza using some of her cards for winding silks. She said that it did not prevent them from being used again if they were ever wanted. Pardon me, I said, but cards for social purposes should not be bent or frayed at the edge and can hardly be too clean. Oblige me by not doing that again. That evening, Eliza told me that number 14 in the Crescent had been taken by some people called Popworth. That must be young Popworth, who used to be in our office, I said. I heard that he was going to be married this year. You must certainly call and leave cards. Which sort and how many? Without referring to a book, I can hardly say precisely. These things are very much a matter of taste. Leave enough, say one of each sort for each person in the house. There should be no stint. How am I to know how many persons there are? Ask the butcher with whom they deal. On the following day, I remarked that Popworth must have come in for money to be taking so large a house, and I hoped he had left the cards. I asked the butcher, and he said there was Popworth, his wife, 2 sisters, a German friend, and 11 children. That was 16 persons and made 48 cards altogether. You see, I remembered your rule. My dear Eliza, I said, I told you as plainly as possible that it was a matter of taste. You ought not to have left 48 at once. Oh, I couldn't keep running backwards and forwards, leaving a few at a time. I've got something to do. There's 3 pair of your socks in the basket waiting to be darned as it is. And good heavens, that Popworth can't be my Popworth. If he's only married this year, he can't, in the nature of things, have got 11 children. And a house like this can't call in a house like that without something to justify it. That's what I thought. Then what on earth did you do it for? I didn't. Who said I did? Sorry, I'm not. I gave a sigh of relief. Later in the evening, when Eliza took a card, notched a bit out of each side, and began winding silk on it, I thought it wiser to say nothing. It is better sometimes to pretend not to see things. Well, I gotta say the reading's a whole lot easier than the previous story, right? Eliza's Mother, Chapter 3. I generally send Eliza to spend a day with her mother early on in December, and to try to cheer her up a little. Excuse me. Wow. I dare say the old lady is very lonely and appreciates the kindly thought. The return ticket is 4 and 2, and Eliza generally buys a few flowers to take with her. That does not leave much change out of 5 shillings when the day is over, but I don't grudge the money. Eliza's mother generally tries to find out, without precisely asking, what we should like for a Christmas present. Eliza does not actually tell her, or even hint it. She would not care to do anything of that sort. But she manages, in a tactful sort of way, to let her know. For instance, the year before last, Eliza's mother happened to say, I wonder if you know what I am going to give you this Christmas. Eliza said, I can see in your eye, Mother, and you shan't do it. It's much too expensive. If other people can do without silver salt cellars, I suppose we can. Well, we got them, so that was all right. But last year, it was more difficult. You see, early in last December, I went over my accounts, and I could see that I was short. For one thing, Eliza had had the measles. Then I had bought a bicycle, and though I sold it again, it did not, in that broken state, bring in enough to pay the compensation to the cabman. I was much annoyed about that. It was true I ran into the horse, but it was not my fault that it bolted and went into the lamppost. As I said rather sharply to the man when I paid him, if his horse had been steady, the thing would have never happened. He did not know what to answer, and made some silly remark about my not being fit to ride a mangle. Both then and at the time of the accident, his language was disrespectful and profane. However, I need not go further into that. It is enough to say that we had some unusual expenses and were distinctly short. I don't blame you, Eliza, I said. Anything you have had, you are very welcome to. I haven't had anything except the measles, she said, and I don't see how you can blame me for that. He is so tactful and discreet. But, I said, I think it's high time you paid a visit to your mother and showed her that we have not forgotten her. Take some Swiss roll, about 6 pennyworth. Try to make things seem a little brighter to her if she says anything about that Christmas. And you saw your way to getting a check from her this year instead of her usual present, you might do that. But show her that we are really fond of her. Remember, she is your mother and has few pleasures. A fiver just now would make a good difference to me, and even a couple of sovereigns would be very handy. He's such a swell fellow, this man. I think this book should have been called, like, Saint Eliza. When Eliza came back, I saw by her face that it was all right. I didn't have to say anything, she said. Mother told me of her own accord that she knew that you had money troubles, and that she was going to take advantage of the Christmas season to relieve you from them in a way which at another time you might be too proud to accept. That, I said warmly, is very thoughtful of her, and very delicate, and it can only mean one thing. It settles me. This year, Eliza, we will give your mother a present. Quite a trifle, of course, about 2 shillings. It will be a token, and she will value it. When I returned from the city, I found that Eliza had purchased a small white vase for 1 in 10. The man in the shop had told her that it was alabaster. I had my doubts about that, but it was quite in my own taste, rather severe and classical. I complimented Eliza on her choice. 3 days before Christmas, I got a letter from Eliza's mother. She said that she had been afraid that I was worrying about my debt to her of £4.13s90. I don't know what these are. She took advantage of the Christmas season to return my IOUs and begged me to consider the debt as paid. It was not at all what I had expected. This guy is a dick. No, I said to Eliza at breakfast, I'm not in the least like a bear with a sore head, and I will thank you not to use the expression. As for your mother's kindness, I'm glad you think it kindness. I wouldn't have it otherwise. If you weren't a born idiot, you wouldn't think so. My debt to your mother would have been discharged in due course. By reminding me that I owed her money, she has practically dunned me for it and forced me to pay her at a most inconvenient time. She comes badgering me for her dirty money at Christmas, and you call it kindness. Kindness! Ha! Oh, ha ha! Don't make those silly noises and get on with your breakfast, said Eliza. Afterward, she asked me if I still meant to send Mother that little vase. Oh, yes, I said. We can afford it. It's nothing to us. Eliza, entirely misunderstanding the word that I next used, got up and said that she would not stop in the room to hear her poor mother sworn at. The word I used, I said calmly, was alabaster, and not what you suppose. You pronounced it just like the other thing. I pronounced it in an exclamatory manner, I replied, from contempt. You seem to me very ready to think evil. This is not the first time. Eliza apologized. As a matter of fact, I really did say alabaster. But I said it emphatically, and I own that it relieved my feelings. Yeah, I think that. We keep the silver salt cellars in the drawer of Eliza's wardrobe as a general rule. I should prefer to use them every day, or at any rate every Sunday. But Eliza says that they make work. Mother has written to me, she said on the following day, to say that she will dine with us on Christmas Day. I had better get the silver salt cellars down. You'd better put them up, I said meaningly. I know that sounds rather bitter, but I confess that I've always had a weakness for the wit that stings. Well, it did not actually come to that. They allowed me to draw a couple of pounds in advance at the office. I suppose they know that when they have got a good man, it is worthwhile to stretch a point to keep him. Not that I was at all dictatorial. Apparently I asked it as a favor, but I fancy our manager saw that I was not a man to be played with. Eliza's mother dined with us and brought a couple of ducks. Conscience, I should say. At the moment of writing, my financial position is absolutely sound, and even if Eliza's mother forced me to use her present to me to pay my debt to her, £7, 19 shillings, something, though I might think it dishonorable on her part, I should not be seriously inconvenienced. However, Eliza is going early in December to suggest sauce boats, plated. That is to say, she may possibly mention them if any occasion arises. Alabaster! I feel so much better. Wow. I just, I hate this man. It's amazing. It's a genuine hatred. I am marveling at the strength of my emotion for the protagonist of this story. It is wow. Whew. This is chapter 4. Miss Sakers. Soccer. Oh, no, I'm not like mad, right? I'm enjoying the novel and all that, but he's a prick. He's a man who's been inadequately hit. Not that I think a lot of problems should be solved with violence, you know? I mean, that is a poor way of thinking, but sometimes a man needs a good punching. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I mean, it's funny in that it's funny but enraging, right? That is all. Like, he's so convinced he's right, and is very clearly writing out how wrong he is without actually saying how wrong he is. It is subtle. That is all. Besides, maybe it's either this or and lo. Yeah, I'm positive. I mean, he's already making an ass of himself. It's like, oh, we're in debt. I have a clever scheme to mooch money from your mom. Oh, I've already mooched money from your mom, and she's just waived that. Yeah, right, exactly. Like, he's also just convinced he's so right. It's way more sublime than just nyuk, rib. Yeah, the novel respects the reader's intelligence. But he's still a prick. Miss Sakers, Chapter 4. On Saturdays, I always get back from the office early. This particular Saturday afternoon, I looked at our chimneys as I came down the street. I thought it very queer, but to make certain, as soon as I got into the house, I opened the drawing-room door. It was just as I thought. I called upstairs to Eliza rather sharply. She came down and said, "Well, what's the matter?" I said, calmly, "The matter? Jane has apparently gone mad, that's all." Jane is the name of our servant. Eliza said that she did not think so, and asked me what the girl had done. I must say, it made me feel rather sarcastic. It would have made any man feel sarcastic. I said, "Oh, nothing. Merely lit the fire in the drawing-room, and not only lit it, but piled coals on it. It is not Sunday, so far as I am aware. It is our rule to have the drawing-room fire lit on Sundays only. We are rather exclusive, and some other people seem to be rather stuck up, and between the two we do not have many callers. If anyone comes, it is always perfectly easy for Eliza to say, 'The housemaid has foolishly forgotten to light the fire here. Shall we not step into the dining room?' I hate to see anything like waste." At this very moment, I added, the drawing-room fire is flaming halfway up the chimney. It seems we can afford to burn half a ton of coals for nothing. I cannot say that I was aware of it. "You are satirical," said Eliza. "I always know when you're being satirical, because you move your eyebrows and say, 'I am aware,' instead of 'I know.' I told Jane to light the fire myself." "May I ask why?" "Miss Sakers is coming in. She sent me a note this very morning to say so." Yeah, that puts a different complexion on the affair. Very tactful of her to have announced the intention. I do not grudge a head full of firing when there is a reason. I only ask that there shall be a reason. Miss Sakers is the vicar's daughter. Strictly speaking, I suppose her social position is superior to our own. I know for a fact that she has been to county balls. She seemed anxious to cultivate an intimacy with us, so I gathered. I was not absurdly pleased about it. One has one's dignity. Besides, at the office, we frequently see people far above Miss Sakers. A nobleman who had called to see one of the partners once remarked to me, "Your office is a devilishly long way from everywhere." There was no particular reason why he should have spoken to me, but he seemed to wish it. After that, it was no very great thing that Miss Sakers seemed anxious to know us better. At the same time, I do not pretend that I was displeased. I went into the drawing-room and put some more coal on. "Is it to be a party?" I asked. "Not at all. She is coming quite as a friend." I went upstairs and changed all my clothes, and then purchased a few flowers, which I placed in vases in the drawing-room. Eliza had got 2 kinds of cake. I added a plate of mixed biscuits on my own responsibility. Beyond this, I did nothing in the way of preparation, wishing to keep the thing as simple and informal as possible. Oh, yeah. A nobleman made an offhand comment to me. I must be something special. Woo! I'm in my mind. Actually, I'm doing those paper coils that go. I need like a sound effect for that. The tea was quite a success. Miss Sakers was to have a stall at the bazaar in aid of the new church. I promised her 5 shillings at first, but afterward made it 7 and 6. Though no longer young, Miss Sakers is very pleasant in her manner. After tea, Miss Sakers and Eliza both did needlework. Miss Sakers was doing a thing in crewels. I could not see what Eliza was doing. She kept it hidden, almost under the table. To prevent the conversation from flagging, I said, "Eliza, dear, what are you making?" She frowned hard at me, shook her head slightly, and asked Miss Sakers about the special preacher for Epiphany Sunday. I at once guessed that Eliza was doing something for Miss Sakers' stall at the bazaar and had intended to keep it secret. I smiled. "Miss Sakers," I said, "I do not know what Eliza is making, but I am quite sure it is for you." Oh. There was a dead silence. Miss Sakers and Eliza both blushed. Then Miss Sakers said, without looking at me, "I think you are mistaken." I felt so sure that I was mistaken that I blushed too. Eliza hurriedly hid her work in the work-basket and said, "It is very close on here. Let me show you round our little garden." They both went out without taking any notice of me. Not having had much tea, I cut myself another slice of cake. While I was in the middle of it, Miss Sakers and Eliza came back, and Miss Sakers said goodbye to me very coldly. I offered to raise my bazaar donation to 10 shillings, but she did not seem to have heard me. "How could you say that?" said Eliza when Miss Sakers had gone. "It was most tactless and not very nice." "I thought you were doing something for the bazaar. What were you making then?" She did not actually tell me, but she implied it in a delicate way. "Well," I said, "of course I wouldn't have called attention to it if I had known, but I don't think you ought to have been doing that work when Miss Sakers was here." "I've no time to waste, and I always make mine myself. I was most careful to keep them hidden. You are very tactless." "I don't think much of that, Miss Sakers," I said. "Why should we go to this expense, putting to the cakes, for a woman of that kind?" Yeah, I don't know. She was doing possibly she was doing some mending, because she's done that before. She was knitting a chauffe zizi, very unlikely. Oh. I didn't pick up on the subtext of it, but yeah. Yeah, I guess I could get that reading out of it, and she implied it in a delicate way. Yeah. It works just as well for me. The orchestrome. I've already lost chapters. Chapter 5 or 6 or something. The next chapter. The orchestrome was on Lady Sandlingbury's stall at the bazaar. Her ladyship came up to Eliza in the friendliest way and said, "My dear lady, I am convinced that you need an orchestrome. It's the sweetest instrument in the world, worth at least £5, and for 1 shilling you have a chance of getting it. It is to be raffled." Eliza objects on principle to anything like gambling, but as this was for the deserving inebriates, which is a good cause, she paid her shilling. She won the orchestrome, and I carried it home for her. 6 tunes were given with the orchestrome. Each tune was on a slip of perforated paper, and all you had to do was put in a slip and touch the spring. We tried it first with the dandied-colored coon. Oh. It certainly played something, but it was not right. There was no recognizable tune about it. "This won't do at all," I said. Perhaps that tune's got bent or something, said Eliza. Put in another. I put in The Lost Chord and The Old Folks at Home, and both were complete failures, a mere jumble of notes with no tune in them at all. I confess that this exasperated me. You see what you've done, I said? You've fooled away a shilling. Nothing is more idiotic than to buy a thing without trying it first. Why didn't you say that before, then? Said Eliza. I don't believe there's anything really wrong with it, just some little thing that's got out of order and can be put right again. Wrong! Why, it's wrong all through. Not one scrap of any of the tunes comes out right. I shall take it back to Lady Sandlingbury at once. Oh, don't do that. But my mind was made up, and I went back to the bazaar, and up to Lady Sandlingbury's stall. Eliza wouldn't come with me. I beg your ladyship's pardon, I said, but your ladyship supplied me with this orchestrome, and your ladyship will have to take it back again. Dear me, what's all the trouble? I started the instrument and let her hear for herself. She smiled and turned to another lady who was helping her. I bet she put it in backwards. The other lady was young and very pretty, but with a scornful kind of amused expression and a drawling way of speaking, both of which I disliked extremely. Edith, said Lady Sandlingbury, here's this angry gentleman going to put us both in prison for selling him a bad orchestrome. He says it won't work. Does it matter, does it? Said the old lady. I mean to say, as long as it will play, you know. At this rather stupid remark, they both laughed without so much as looking at me. I don't want to make this in any way unpleasant, your ladyship, I said, but this instrument was offered for raffle as being worth £5, and it's not worth 5 shillings. Come now, said Lady Sandlingbury, I will give you 5 shillings for it. There you are! Now you can be happy and go and spend your money. She took the orchestrome and started it, and it played magnificently. Nothing could have been more perfect. These things do better, she said, when you don't put the tunes in wrong end first, so that the instrument plays them backwards. I think your ladyship might have told me that before, I said. Oh, you were so angry, and you didn't ask me. Edith, dear, do go and be civil to some people, and make them take tickets for another raffle. I call this sharp practice, I said, if not worse, and... Here the other lady interrupted me. Could you please go away, unless you want to buy something? Thanks so much. I went. I am rather sorry for it now. I think it would have been more dignified to have stopped and defied them. Eliza appeared to think that I made myself ridiculous. I do not agree with her. I do think, however, that when members of the aristocracy practice a common swindle in support of a charity, they go to show that rank is not everything. If Miss Sakers happens to ask us whether we're going to the bazaar in support of the deserving inebriates next year, I have instructed Eliza to reply, not if Lady Sandlingbury and her friends have a stall. I positively refuse to meet them, and I do not care 2 pence if they know it. Oh, this is like a 1970s sitcom. Oh my God. Anyway, the tonic port. We do a large export trade, that is, the firm does. And there are often samples lying about in the office. There was a bottle of Terrett's tonic port, which had been there some time, and one of the partners told the head clerk that he could have it if he liked. Later in the day, the head clerk said if a bottle of Terrett's tonic port was of any use to me, I might take it home. He said he had just opened it and tasted it because he did not like to give anything away until he knew if it was all right. I thanked him. Tastes, I said, just like any ordinary port, I suppose? Well, he said, it's more a tonic port than an ordinary port. But that's only what you'd expect from the label. Quite so, I said, quite so. I looked at the label and saw that it said that the port was particularly rich in phosphates. I put the bottle in my bag that night and took it home. Eliza, I said, I have brought you a little present. It is a bottle of port. Eliza very rarely takes anything at all, but if she does, it is a glass of port. In this respect, I admire her taste. Port, as I have sometimes said to her, is the king of wines. We decided that we would have a glass after supper. That is really the best time to take anything of the kind. The wine soothes the nerves and prevents insomnia. Eliza picked the bottle up and looked at the label. Why, she said, you told me it was port. So it is. It says tonic port on the label. Well, tonic port practically is port. That is to say, it is poured with the addition of phosphates. What are phosphates? Oh, there are so many of them, you know. There is quinine, of course, and magnesium, and so on. Let me fill your glass. She took one very little sip. It isn't what I should call a pleasant wine, she said. It stings so. So many phosphates. Ah, I said, that's the phosphates. It would be a little like that, but that's not the way to judge a port. What you should do is take a large mouthful and roll it around the tongue. Then you get the aroma. Look, this is the way. I took a large mouthful. When I had stopped coughing, I said that I didn't know that there was anything absolutely wrong with the wine, but you wanted to be ready for it, and it had come on me rather unexpectedly. Eliza said that very likely that was it, and she asked me if I would care to finish my glass now that I knew what it was like. I said that it was not quite a fair test to try a port just after it had been shaken about. I would let the bottle stand for a day or two. Ultimately, I took what was left in Eliza's glass, and my own, and emptied it into the garden. I did this because I did not want our general servant to try it when she cleared away and possibly acquire a taste for drink. Next morning, I found that 2 of our best geraniums had died during the night. I said it was most inexplicable. Eliza said nothing. A few nights afterwards, Eliza asked me if I thought that the tonic port had stood long enough. Yes, I said. I will decant it for you, and then if Miss Sakers calls, you might say carelessly that you are just going to have a glass of port and would be glad if she would join you. No, thank you, she said. I don't want to deceive Miss Sakers. You could mention that it was rich in phosphates. There need be no deception about it. Well then, I don't want to lose the few friends we've got. As you please, Eliza. It seems a pity to waste more than half a bottle of good wine. Bottle of what? You heard what I said. Well, drink it yourself if you like it. I mean, phosphates are a key component of soap, incidentally, or certain types of soap. It's a problem we had with the reason why our waterways have suffered so much eutrophication, which is like massive algal growth or whatever, is because of all the phosphates we've been dumping into the water. So just imagine a sort of soapy, detergenty kind of flavor. It's gross. Some weeks afterward, I found the bottle of Tarot's tonic port still standing in the sideboard. I gave it to our servant, explaining to her that it would be best mixed with water. There was still the risk of her acquiring drinking habits, but I could think of no one else to give it to. That night, Eliza found the girl crying in the kitchen. When Eliza asked what was the matter, she said that she would say nothing, but that she was wishful to leave at the end of her month. Of course, Eliza blamed me, but I had told the girl as distinctly as I could speak that it was a wine which required dilution. However, Eliza persuaded her to stay on. The girl took the pledge on the following day and seemed changed in many ways. She put the bottle back in the sideboard. There is still more than half of it left. Oh, yeah, probably much like that. Wine plus soap. What a flavor. After that, nothing happened with reference to the tonic port, until one day I noticed that our cat, who had recently lost her kittens, seemed in a poor state of health. I gave it a few spoonfuls of the tonic port and a little milk. It drank it with avidity, somewhat to my surprise. I had one or two little things to do in the garden after that. And when I came back, Eliza said that the cat had become so very strange in its manner that she had thought it best to lock it in the coal cellar. I went to look at it and found it lying on its back, dead. It seemed it had a singularly happy expression on its face. Both Eliza and myself were very sorry to lose it. Oh. Well, at least he died happy. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, Montreth. I judged it best to say nothing about the port. But the bottle had gone from the sideboard. Eliza said that she had removed it to prevent further accidents. I told the head clerk about it, but he only laughed in the silliest way. He is a most ill-bred man, in my opinion. The gentleman of title. One of our younger clerks, a man of the name of Perkins, is said to be very well connected. He certainly spends more than his salary and rarely wears the same trousers on 2 consecutive days. But I am not a snob, nor one who thinks much of these things, and I had never cultivated young Perkins. Consequently, it rather surprised me when he introduced me to his friend, the Honorable Eugene Claremont. Then I remembered what had been said about Perkins' connections. The Honorable Eugene Claremont was a handsome young man, though apparently troubled with pimples. His manner had in it what I should call dash. There was not an ounce of affection about him, but then high rank does not need affectations. There's not an ounce of affectation about him, but then high rank does not need affectations. I've always noticed that. He appeared to take rather a liking to me, and insisted that we must all 3 go out and have a drink together. This is a thing which I really never do, but on this occasion I allowed myself to be persuaded. Not liking to mention beer, I said that I would take a glass of sherry wine. Nothing could have been more friendly and pleasing than his behavior towards me. There was nothing at all stuck up about him. It turned out that, after all, the Honorable Eugene Claremont had forgotten his purse. And Perkins happened to have no money on him. I, therefore, paid for the drinks, and also lent the Honorable Eugene Claremont half a crown for his cab. It was indeed quite a pleasure to do so. He thanked me warmly, and said that he should like to know me better. Might he call at my house on the following Saturday afternoon? As luck would have it, I happened to have a card on me and presented it to him, saying that it would indeed be an honor. Thanks, he replied, and then I can repay you this half-sovereign, or whatever it is. Only 4 shillings, I replied, and pray do not mention it. Wow. There's a subtlety to this that I'm missing because I don't understand English money. Yeah, I gather a sovereign or half sovereign is a lot of cash, and a crown's possibly more. And anyway, I feel like I need the joke explained. Eliza was certainly less pleased than myself when she heard that the Honorable Eugene Claremont was coming. She said that he might be all right, or he might not, and we did not know anything about him. I replied, one does not know anything about anybody in that rank of life. It is not necessary. Oh, she said, isn't it? Well, I don't happen to be an earl myself. And really, on the Saturday morning, I had the greatest difficulty to get Eliza to take a little trouble with the drawing room, though I asked for nothing more than a thorough dusting, chrysanthemums, and the blinds up. For the tea, I offered to make myself entirely responsible. There was some doubt as to whether the girl should announce him as the Honorable Mr. Claremont, or the Honorable Eugene Claremont, or Mr. Honorable Claremont. She'd better do all 3, one after the other, said Eliza, snappishly. I obviated the difficulty by telling the girl, as she opened the drawing-room door, merely to say, "A gentleman to see you." I am rather one for thinking of these little ways out of difficulties. Eliza wanted to know what time he was coming. I replied that he could not come before 3 or after 6, because that would be against etiquette. Suppose he comes at 5 minutes to 3 by accident, said Eliza. Would he sit on our doorsteps until the clock struck and then ring the bell? I was really beginning to lose patience with Eliza. However, by 3 o'clock I had Eliza in the drawing room with a magazine and a paper knife by her side, as if she had been reading. She was really darning socks, but they could easily be concealed in an empty art flower pot when the front bell rang. We sat in the drawing room until 6, but strangely enough, the Honorable Eugene Claremont never came. The trifle that I had spent on the Madeira cake and the macaroons was nothing, but it did wound my feelings that he had not even thought it worthwhile to explain his inability to keep his appointment. And on the Monday, I said to Perkins rather sharply, "There was that matter of 4 shillings with your friend. I've not received the money, and I should thank you to see about it." "What?" said Perkins. "You ask my friend and me to come and drink with you, and then want me to dun him for the money to pay for it. Well, I am blowed." "Oh, the whole thing was most unsatisfactory and incomprehensible." Huh. Okay. So, the money actually... Wow. I'm still confused about the money. Because it's like half a crown, and then half a sovereign, and then 4 shillings. Oh, those Englishers. The hat. I had long believed that all was not right with my hat. I could prove nothing, but I had no doubt in my own mind that the girl took liberties with it. It is very easy to brush a silk hat the wrong way, for instance, but silk hats do not brush themselves the wrong way. If it is done, someone must have done it. Morning after morning, I found marks on my hat which I could not account for. Well, I said nothing, but I made up my mind to keep my eyes open. It was not only the injury to the hat, it was the impertinence to myself that affected me. One Saturday afternoon, while I was at home, a costermonger came to the door with walnuts. The girl answered the bell, and presently I saw the coster and his cart go past the dining-room window. I don't know why it was, or how it was, but a suspicion came over me. I stepped sharply to the door and looked out into the passage. There was no one there. The front door was open, and the kitchen door was open, and in a position between the two, against the umbrella stand, was... something worse than ever I had expected. I picked that hat up just as it was, with the walnuts inside it, and placed it on the dining-room table. Then I called to Eliza to come downstairs. "What is it?" she asked, as she entered the dining-room. I pointed to the hat. "This kind of thing," I said, "has been going on for years." "Oh, do talk sense," she said. "What do you mean?" "Sense," I said. "You ask me to talk sense when I find my own hat standing on the floor in the hall and used as a receptacle for walnuts." She smiled. "I can explain all that," she said. "I've no doubt you can. I'm sick to death of explanations. I gave 10 or 11 shillings for a hat and find it ruined. I know those explanations. You told the girl to buy the walnuts, and she has got nothing else to put them in, and the hat was handy, but if you think I take that as an excuse, you make a mistake." "I wasn't going to say that at all." "Or else you'll tell me that you can paste in a piece of white paper so that the stains on the lining won't show. Explanations indeed." "I wasn't going to say that either." "I don't care what you're going to say. I won't hear it. There's no explanation possible. For once I mean to take a strong line. You see that hat? I shall never wear it again." "I know that." "No one shall wear it. I don't care for the expense. If you choose to let that servant girl ruin my hat, then that hat shall be ruined, and make no mistake about it." I picked the hat up and gave it one sound, savage kick. My foot went through it, and the walnuts flew all over the room. At the same moment, I heard from the drawing-room a faint tink-tink-tink on the piano. "Yes," said Eliza, "that's the piano tuner. He came at the same time as the walnut man and bought those walnuts, and he put them in his hat. His hat, mind you, not your hat. Your hat's hanging up in the usual place. You might have seen it if you'd looked. Only your... Eliza, I said, you need say no more. If that is so, the servant girl is much less to blame than I had supposed. I have to go out now, but perhaps you'd drop into the living room and explain to the tuner that there's been some slight misunderstanding with his hat. And I say a glass of beer and 2 shillings is as much as you need offer. He's a prick! Oh, shit. Wow. My fortune. The girl had just removed the supper things. We have supper rather early because I like a long evening. Now, Eliza, I said, you take your work, your sewing or whatever it may be, and I will take my work. Yes, I've brought it with me, and it's to be paid as overtime. I dare say it mayn't seem much to you, a lot of trouble and only a few shillings to show for it when all's said and done, but that is the way fortunes are made, by sticking at it, by plugging into it, if I may use the term. Well, the table's clear if you want to start, said Eliza. Very well, I replied, and fetched my black bag from the passage to get the accounts on which I was working. I always hang the bag on the peg in the passage just under my hat. Then it is there in the morning when and where it is wanted. Method in the little things has always been rather a motto of mine. It has sometimes struck me, Eliza, I said, as I came back into the dining room with the bag in my hand, that you do not read so much as I should like to see you read. Well, you asked me to take my work, and these socks are for you, and I never know what you do want. I did not mean that I wanted you to read at this moment, but there is one book. I cannot say exactly what the title is, and the name of the author has slipped my memory, which I should like to see in your hands occasionally, because it deals with the making of fortunes. It practically shows you how to do it. Did the man who wrote it make one? Asked Eliza. That, not knowing the name of the man, I cannot say for certain. Well, I should want to know that first. And aren't you going to start? I can hardly start until I have unlocked my bag, and I cannot unlock my bag until I have the keys, and I cannot have the keys until I have fetched them from the bedroom. Try to be a little more reasonable. I could not find the keys in the bedroom. Then Eliza went up, and she could not find them either. By a sort of oversight, they were in my pocket all the time. I laughingly remarked that I knew I should find them first. Eliza seemed rather pettish, the joke being against herself. The reason why I mentioned that book, I said as I unlocked the bag, is because it points out that there are 2 ways of making a fortune. One is, if I may say so, my own way. By method in little things, economy of time, doing all the work that one can get to, and... You won't get much done tonight if you don't start soon, said Eliza. I do not like to be interrupted in the middle of a sentence. The other way by which you may make a fortune, well, it's not making a fortune. It's the fortune that makes you, if you understand me. I don't, said Eliza. I mean that the fortune may come of itself by luck. Luck is a very curious thing. We cannot understand it. It's of no use to talk about it because it is quite impossible to understand it. Then let's talk about it, especially when you've got something else to do. Temper, Eliza. You must guard against that. I was not going to talk about luck. I was going to give you an instance of luck, which happened to come within my own personal experience. It is the case of a man of the name of Chumpley in our office, and would probably interest and amuse you. I do not know if I ever mentioned Chumpley to you. Yes, you've told me all about him several times. I might have mentioned Chumpley to Eliza, but I am sure that I have never told her all about him. However, I was not going to sulk, and so I told her the story again. The story would not have been so long if she hadn't interrupted me so frequently. Yeah, she's amazing. When I had finished, she said that it was time to go to bed and that I had wasted the evening. I owned that possibly I had been chatting rather longer than I had intended, but I would still get those accounts done and sit up to do them. And that means extra gas, she said. That's the way money gets wasted. There are many men in my place, I said, who would refuse to sit down to work as late as this. I don't. Why? On principle. Because it's through the cultivation of the sort of thing that I cultivate one arrives at fortune. Think what fortune would mean to us. Big house, large garden, servants, carriages. I should come in from a day with the hounds, and perhaps say I felt rather done up and would like a glass of champagne. No question of expense, not a word about it, money no object. You'd just get the bottle out of the sideboard, and I should have my glass, and they'd finish it in the kitchen, and... Are you going to begin, or are you not? Asked Eliza. This minute, I replied, opening the black bag. I examined the contents carefully. Well, I said, this is a very strange occurrence indeed, most unaccountable. I don't remember ever to have done anything of the kind before, but I seem to have forgotten to bring that work from the city. Dear me, I shall be forgetting my head next. Eliza's reply that this would be no great loss did not seem to me to be either funny or polite or even true. You strangely forget yourself, I replied, and turned the gas out sharply. The double grand medal of the Order of Boundless Patience for the Lady Eliza. We're starting to add oak leaf, it's kind of like some of those war medals. If you get the medal again, you don't get a second medal. They just add an oak leaf or a cluster or something under it. So now with 7 oak leaves. Shakespeare. I led up to it, saying to Eliza, not at all in a complaining way, does it not seem to you a pity to let those long winter evenings run to waste? Yes, dear, she replied. I think you ought to do something. And you too. Is it not so, darling? There's generally some sewing or the accounts. Yes, but these things do not exercise the mind. Accounts do. Not in the way I mean. I had now reached my point. How would it be if I were to read aloud to you? I don't think you have ever heard me read aloud. You are fond of the theatre, and we cannot often afford to go. This would make up for it. There are many men who would tell you that they would sooner have a play read aloud to them than see it acted in the finest theatre in the world. Would they? Well, perhaps if I were only sewing, it wouldn't interrupt me much. Wow. Well, we shall we cue them up then? These other books? Poor Eliza. That's all I gotta say. I said, that is not very graciously put, Eliza. There is a certain art in reading aloud, and I'm bad at it. Some have it, and some have not. I do not know if I have ever told you, but when I was a boy of 12, I won a prize for recitation, though several older boys were competing against me. She said that I had told her before several times. I continued, and I suppose that I have developed since then. A man in our office once told me that he thought I should have done very well on the stage. I don't know whether I ever mentioned it. She said that I had mentioned it once or twice. I should have thought that you would have been glad of a little pleasure, innocent, profitable, and entertaining. However, if you think I am not capable of... What do you want to read? What would you like me to read? Miss Sakers lent me this. She handed me a paper-covered volume entitled The Murglow Mystery, or The Stain on the Staircase. Trash like this is not literature, I said. However, to please her, I glanced at the first page. Half an hour later, I said that I should be very sorry to read a book of that stamp out loud. Then why do you go on reading it to yourself? Strictly speaking, I am not reading it. I am glancing at it. When Eliza got up to go to bed an hour later, she asked me if I was still glancing. I kept my temper. Try not to be so infernally unreasonable, I said. If Miss Sakers lends us a book, it is discourteous not to look at it. On the following night, Eliza said that she hoped I was not going to sit up until 3 a.m, wasting the gas and ruining my health over a book that I myself had said. And who pays for the gas? Nobody's paid last quarter's yet. Mother can't do everything, and... Well, we can talk about that some other time. Tonight, I'm going to read aloud to you a play of Shakespeare's. I wonder if you even know who Shakespeare was. Ooh. Yeah, I'm with G. I mean, just buy the arsenic. You don't even have to do anything with it. Just buy it. Of course I do. Could you honestly say that you have ever read only one of his tragedies? No. Could you? I am going to read Macbeth to you, trying to indicate by changes in my voice which character is speaking. I opened the book. Eliza said that she couldn't think who it was who took her scissors. Took her scissors. I can't begin till you keep quiet, I said. It's the second pair that's gone this week. Very well then, I said, shutting up the book with a bang. I will not read aloud to you tonight at all. You may get along as you can without it. You're sure you didn't take those scissors for anything? She replied meditatively. Now then, I said on the next night, I am ready to begin. The tragedy is entitled Macbeth. This is the first scene. What is the first scene? A blasted heath. Well, I think you might give a civil answer to a civil question. There was no occasion to use that word. I didn't. You did. I heard it distinctly. Do let me explain. It's Shakespeare uses the word. I was only quoting it. It merely means, oh, if it's Shakespeare, I suppose it's all right. Nobody seems to mind what he says. You can go on. I read for some time. Eliza, in reply to my question, owned that she had enjoyed it, but she went to bed before her usual time. When I was preparing to read aloud on the following evening, I was unable to find our copy of Shakespeare. This was very annoying, as it had been a wedding present. Eliza said that she had found her scissors, and very likely I should find the Shakespeare some other night. But I never did. I have half thought of buying another copy, or dare I say Eliza's mother would like to give it to us. Eliza thinks not. Oh, God. I'm just reminded of the time I tried to do the radio play show, and we just had Orr's voice for like 40 minutes. Yeah. Well, at least she found her scissors, eh? Oh, that one was kind of sublime. Wow. The unsolved problem. Eliza, I said one evening, do you think that you are fonder of me than I am of you, or that I am fonder of you than you are of me? She answered, what is 13 from 28, without looking up from the account book? I do think, I said, that when I speak to you, you might have the civility to pay some little attention. She replied, £1.15 and 2, and I hope you know where we are to get it from, for I don't. And don't bang on the table in that silly way, or you'll spill the ink. I did not bang. I tapped slightly from a pardonable impatience. I put a plain question to you some time ago, and I should like a plain answer to it. Well, what do you want to talk for when you see I'm counting? Now, what is it? What I asked was this. Do you think that I am fonder of me? No, you're fonder of I. Well, I'll begin again. Which of us two would you say was fonder of the other than the other was of the... Dash it all! You know what I mean. No, I don't, but it's nothing to swear about. I was not swearing. If you don't know what I mean, I'll try to put it more simply. Are you fonder than I am? There. Fonder of what? Fonder of each other. You mean, is each of us fonder of the other than the other is of the each? I mean nothing of the kind. Until you muddled it, the thing was perfectly clear. Well, we two are two, are we not? Well, of course I know that, but... Wait a minute. I think that you shall understand me this time. Which of those two would you say was the fonder of the other than the other was of the other? Or would you say that each was as fond of the other as the other one was? Now you see it. Almost. Say it again. Would you say that in your opinion, neither of us were fonder of the other than both were of each, or that one was fonder of the other than the other was of the first? And if so, which? Now you've made it worse than ever. I don't believe you know what you mean yourself. Do come to supper and talk sense. I smiled cynically as I sat down to supper. This doesn't surprise me in the least, I remarked. I never yet knew a woman who could argue or even understand the first step in an argument, and I don't suppose I ever shall. I think I'm going to pause here and say, he's fond of nobody, and she endures him. So the correct answer is neither is fond of the other. Well, said Eliza, you can't argue until you know what you are arguing about, and I don't know what you're talking about, and you don't seem to know yourself, or if you do, you're too muddled to tell anybody. If you want to argue about £1.15 and 2. It's Griffith's and has been sent in 3 times already. Don't shirk it, Eliza. Don't try to get away from it. I asked you which of us you thought was the fonder of the other, and you couldn't understand it. Why, of course I understand that. Why didn't you say so before? As far as I remember, those were my precise words. But they weren't. What you said was, if neither of us was fonder of both than each is of each other, which of the two would it be, or something of the kind? Now, how can I talk such absolute nonsense? Ah, she said, when men lose their tempers, they never know what they're saying. I had a very good answer to that, but just at the moment the girl brought in the last post. There was a letter from Eliza's mother. There was also an enclosure and postal orders quite beyond anything that I had expected, and she expressed a hope that it might enable us to defray some of the expenses incidental to the season. As far as my own personal feeling is concerned, I should have returned them at once. In some ways, I dare say that I am a proud man. I have been told so. But the poor old lady takes such pleasure in giving, and she has so little other enjoyment, that I should have been reluctant to check her. In fact, taking the money as evidence of her affection, I was pleased. So was Eliza. Pay Griffith 2 penny halfpenny account tomorrow, I said, and tell him that he has lost our patronage forever. Eliza's mother is amazing. Eliza has made one big mistake in her life and has been paying for it ever since. We did not recur to the original question. Personally, I should say that in the case of 2 people, it might very well happen that, though at one time the affection of one for the other might be greater than the affection which the other had for the one which I originally mentioned at the same time, yet at some other time the affection which the other one had for the other might be just as much greater than the affection which the first one had for the second, as the difference was in the first instance between the two. At least, that is the general drift of what I mean. Eliza would never see it, of course. I've been kind of gesturing and tapping at my table for some of this, incidentally. You can't see the gestures, but you probably hear the taps. Oh, this man. Well, thank you. Pray that I am never this man to you, Eliza. I try my best. But I see much of Eliza in you, unfortunately. Unfortunately for me. It's funny you mentioned that, Montreth. I remember there's this one episode of that podcast. It had involved that super YT character, and there was this big paragraph of gibberish that we're all looking forward to me reading, and I just smashed my way through it like it was nothing. And I'm amused greatly by it, but I don't remember even what it's called or where to find it. I mean, I know roughly where to find it, but I don't know which episode. Oh, you guys are going to make me blush. But I'm hugging you both in my mind right now. Platonic, of course. The day off. On the occasion of the marriage of our junior partner to Ethel Mary, the only surviving daughter of William Hubblestead, Esquire, J.P. of Banlingbury, by the Canon of Blockminster, assisted by the Reverend Eugene Hubblestead, cousin of the bride. On this occasion, the office was closed for the whole of one day, and the staff had a holiday without deduction of salary. The staff had presented 6 silver hallmarked nutcrackers and a handsomely bound volume of Cowper's poetical works. The latter was my own suggestion. There was a sum of 8 shillings over after the purchase of the nutcrackers, and I have always had a partiality for Cowper. The junior partner thanked us personally and in very warm terms. At the same time, he announced that the following Thursday was to be treated as a holiday. The weather was glorious, and I have never had a more enjoyable day. The girl laid breakfast overnight, and we rose at 5:30. By 6:30, Eliza had cut some mutton sandwiches and placed them in a basket with a bottle of milk, the milkman having obliged with a specially early call by appointment. A brief journey by train, and by 7:15 we were at Danstow for a day off in the country. Yeah, the guy works on Saturdays, for heaven's sake. Danstow was a picturesque little village and looked beautiful in the hot sunlight. I was wearing a fairly new summer suit with brown boots. As I remarked to Eliza, it probably would have created a feeling of surprise among the villagers if they had learned that, as a rule, my professional duties took me to the city in the morning. Eliza said, "All right, what do we do here?" "Why," I said, "there's the old church. We mustn't miss that." Not missed, miss. We went and examined the old church. Then we went twice up and down the village street and examined that. "Well," said Eliza, "what next?" "Now," I replied, "we just stroll about and amuse ourselves. I feel particularly light-hearted." "That's breakfasting at 6, that is," said Eliza. "If you could find a quiet place, we might have a sandwich." We went a little way along the road, and I espied a field which seemed to me to look likely. I said to a passer-by, "I am a stranger here. Can you tell me whether there would be any objection to our sitting in that field?" He said, in a rather an offensive and sarcastic way, that he believed the field was open for sitting in about that hour. I did not give him any reply, but just opened the gate for Eliza. We sat down under the hedge and finished our sandwiches and milk. The church clock struck 9. "What train do we go back by?" asked Eliza. "Not until 9:30 tonight. There's a day for you." 12 hours and a half, said Eliza. "And we've done the sandwiches, and done the milk, and done the church, and there's nothing else to do." "Except amuse ourselves," I added, as I took off my boots, which had pained me slightly. I then dozed off. Eliza woke me to say that she had read all the newspaper the sandwiches were wrapped in and picked some wild flowers, and the flowers had died, and she wanted to know what the time was. It was just past 11. She said, "Oh, Lor." I soon dropped off again. When I woke at 12:30, Eliza was not there. She returned in a few minutes and said that she had been doing the church over again. "That was hardly necessary," I observed. "Oh, one must do something, and there's nothing else to do." "On the contrary, there's luncheon. We'll have that at once, so as to give us a good long afternoon." "The afternoon will be long enough," she said. If I had not known that she was having a day's enjoyment, I would have thought that she seemed rather dejected in her manner. Yeah. Yeah, he thinks he's like a fancy pants dude. And yeah, they're just sitting there doing sweet F all. The luncheon at the inn was not expensive. Eliza said that their idea of chops was not her idea, but all the same, she seemed inclined to spin the thing out and make it last as long as possible. I deprecated this, as I felt that I could not very well take my boots off again until I had returned to the field. "Very well, then," she said. "Only let's go back slowly." "As slowly as you like," I replied. "It's the right boot principally, but I prefer to walk slowly." When we had resumed our old position under the hedge, and I had removed my boots, I said, "Now then, I think I've earned a pipe and a short nap. You amuse yourself in any way you like." "Do what with myself?" she asked rather sharply. She walked twice round the field, and then I fell off to sleep. It turned out afterward that she did also the picturesque old church for the third time, and went over a house which was to let, refusing to take it on the ground that there was no bathroom. This was rather dishonest, as she would not have taken it if there had been a bathroom, or even two bathrooms. I would not do that kind of thing myself. I awoke at about tea time. The charge for tea at the inn was very moderate, though Eliza said that there was tea which was tea, and tea which was an insult. Eliza found that there was a train back at 6:30, and said she was going by it whether I did or not, because it was a pity to have too much of a good thing, and she hadn't the face to ask for the keys of that church again. I accompanied her. I fancied that the brown leather is liable to shrink in the sun, and I was not unwilling to get back to my slippers. And stretch myself out on the sofa. There is nothing like a long day in the country, quite apart from the enjoyment you feel that is doing you so much good. I am sorry that Eliza did not seem to enter into the spirit of the thing more. Oh, that is... wow. Oh, I feel so much for Eliza. Like, he is not worth the good silver. Stab him with something cheap. Stab him with the sewing needles. Actually, that's a waste of good sewing needles. Stab him with a pine needle. The mushroom. We were at breakfast one morning in the summer when the girl entered rather excitedly and said that the thing to the best of her belief was that there was a mushroom coming in the little lawn in front of the house. It seemed a most extraordinary thing, and Eliza and I both went out to look at it. There was certainly something white coming through the turf. The only question was whether or not it was a mushroom. The girl seemed certain about it. Why, she said, in my last place, mushrooms was frequent. You see, being wealthy, they had anything they fancied. If I didn't know about mushrooms, I ought to. There is a familiarity in that girl's manner which to my mind is highly objectionable. The establishment where she was formerly employed was apparently on a scale that we do not attempt. That does not justify her, however, in continually drawing comparisons. I shall certainly have something to say to her about it. Yeah, drop him in the coal cellar. That's the... Yep, that's the best solution. Just put him in there. He can stay with the cat. However, it was not about Jane that I intended to speak, but about the mushroom. Eliza said that I ought to put a flower pot over the mushroom because, being visible from the road, someone might be tempted to come in and steal it. But I was too deep for that. No, I replied, if you put an inverted pot plant there, everyone will guess that you are hiding a mushroom underneath it. Just put a scrap of newspaper over it. But that might get blown away. Fasten down one corner of it with a hairpin. Eliza said that I was certainly one to think of things. I believe there is a truth in that. On my way to the station, I happened to meet Mr. Bungwall's gardener, a most obliging and respectful man, and had a word with him about the mushroom. He said that he would come round in the evening and have a look at it. I was pleased to find, on my return, that the mushroom was still in the garden under the newspaper and had increased slightly in size. This, I said to Eliza, is very satisfactory. It would make a nice little present to send to Mother, Eliza observed. There I could not entirely agree with her. I pointed out that in a week's time I should probably be applying to her mother for a small temporary loan. I did not think it an honorable thing to attempt to influence her mind beforehand by sending a present. I wished her to approach the question of the loan purely in a business spirit. I added that I thought we would leave the mushroom to grow for one more day and then have it for breakfast. That ultimately was decided upon. Then Mr. Bungwell's gardener arrived, and he said that he was sorry to disappoint us in any way, and it was not his fault, but the mushroom was a toadstool. This, I said to Eliza, is something of a blow. Perhaps, she said, Mr. Bungwell's gardener is mistaken. I fear not. But however, I happened to mention about that mushroom to our head clerk this morning, and he said that he thoroughly understood mushrooms, and he had made a small profit by growing them. Tomorrow I will pick that toadstool or mushroom, as the case may be, take it up to the city, and ask him about it. Eliza agreed that this would be the best way. I mean, just to my understanding, champignon just means mushroom. So, it's a mushroom, I guess. Eh. But at breakfast next morning, she seemed thoughtful and somewhat depressed. I asked her what she was thinking about. It's like this, she said. If your head clerk says that our toadstool is a mushroom, while Mr. Bungwell's gardener says that our mushroom is a toadstool, we shan't like to eat it because of Mr. Bungwell's gardener, and we shan't like to throw it away because of your head clerk, and I don't see what to do with it. You forget, my dear, we have a third opinion. Jane says the mushroom is a mushroom. Jane will say anything. Well, we might put her to the test. We might ask her if she'd like to eat the mushroom herself, and then if she says yes and seems pleased, why, of course we'd eat it. I'll go and pick it now. And when I went to do so, I found that the mushroom had gone. Eliza says that Mr. Bungwell's gardener told us it was a toadstool to keep us from picking it, and then stole it himself, because he knew that it was a mushroom. That may be. I should be sorry to believe it, because I have always found Mr. Bungwell's gardener to be such a respectful man. To my mind, there is an air of mystery over the whole affair. Huh. I'm trying to see. I feel like we're reading an Agatha Christie mystery. Like what, or well, probably not, but what was the ending? Well, probably this dude told everybody he's got a mushroom, so somebody swiped it, but. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in my recollection anyway, so my Quebecois French is just champignon just means mushroom. But on the other hand, we've pretty much largely that sort of implies the edible ones, but you'd throw in some extra adjectives for champignon if it was like an inedible one. I don't recall the specifics at the moment. I'm interested in your theories about the missing mushroom. Yeah, wow. You don't take someone's mushrooms. Well, yeah. How uncivilized. He has such uncouth neighbors, that man. I kind of think maybe he swiped the mushroom and then sent it off to the woman, like his mother-in-law anyway, but. The pleasant surprise. I had got the money by work done at home out of office hours. It came to £4 altogether. At first, I thought I would use it to discharge a part of our debt to Eliza's mother. But it was very possible that she would send it back again, in which case the pence spent on the postal orders would be wasted, and I am not a man that wastes pennies. Also, it was not absolutely certain that she would send it back. I sent her a long letter instead. My long letters are almost her only intellectual pleasure. As for the £4, I reserved 2 for myself for any incidental expenses, and decided to give 2 to Eliza. I did not mean simply to hand them to her, but to get up something in the way of a pleasant surprise. I had tried something of the kind before. Eliza once asked me for 6 shillings for a new tea tray that she had seen. I went and stood behind her chair and said, "No, dear, I couldn't think of it," at the same time dropping the 6 shillings down the back of her neck. Eliza said that it was a pity I couldn't give her 6 shillings for a tea tray without compelling her to go upstairs and undress at 9 o'clock in the morning. It was not a success. However, I had more than one idea in my head. This time, I thought I would first find out if there was anything she wanted. So on Sunday at tea time, I said, not as if I were meaning anything in particular, "Is there anything you want, Eliza?" "Yes," she said. "I want a general who'll go to bed at 9:30 and get up at 5:30. If they'd only do that, that's all I ask." "You will pardon me, Eliza," I said, "but you are not speaking correctly. You said that was all you asked." "What you meant." "Do you know what I meant?" "I flatter myself that I know precisely." "Then if you know precisely what I meant, I must have spoken accurately." But as we went to church, I discovered that she wanted a new jacket. Her own was trimmed rabbit and had been good, but the fur had gone bald in places. Yeah, this guy is very much a 500 Tales sort of guy. Tale. Next morning, I wrote on a sheet of notepaper, "To buy a new jacket, with your husband's love." I folded the 2 sovereigns up in this and dropped the packet into the pocket of Eliza's old jacket as it hung in the wardrobe, not telling her what I had done. My idea was that she would put on the jacket to go out shopping in the morning, and putting her head in the pocket, get a pleasant surprise. As I was leaving for town, she asked me why I kept on smiling so mysteriously. I replied, "Perhaps you too will smile before the day is over." On my return, I found Eliza at the front door. "Come and look," she said cheerfully. "I have got a pleasant surprise for you." She flung open the drawing-room door and pointed. In the middle of the table stood a spirea, a most handsome and graceful plant. It stood in one of the best saucers, with some colored paper round the pot, and the general effect was very good. I had once guessed that she had bought it for me with the change from my present to her, and thought it showed very good feeling in her. "I hope you have not given too much for this," I said. "I didn't give any money for it." "I don't understand." "Well, you must know I had a present this morning." "Of course I know." "Did Mother tell you?" "Yes, she has sent me a beautiful new jacket. Then a man came round with a barrow of plants, and he said he didn't want money if I had any clothes to spare. So I gave him my old worn-out jacket for this spirea, and—" I remembered that I had seen the man with the barrow farther down the street. "Excuse me for one moment, Eliza," I said, and dashed out after him. He was a big, red-faced man, and made no difficulty about it at all. "Yes," he said, "I bought that jacket, governor, and I don't deny it. There it is at the bottom of my bundle, and I ain't even looked at it since. Nor I ain't going to look now. You say there was 2 sovereigns in the pocket. A gent like you don't want to swindle a common man like me. If you say the 2 sovereigns was there, and they're there now, and I can return your £2 out of my own in a certainty of getting 'em back out of the jacket pocket, bless yer, I know as an honest man when I sees one," and I'm sorry I couldn't do that voice. With these words, he drew the money from his own waistcoat pocket and handed it to me. I took it with some reluctance. "Hadn't you made quite certain?" "Not a bit," says he. "If them sovereigns were there when the jacket were handed to me, they is there now. I could see as you was a man to be trusted, otherwise I'd have undone the bundle and searched long afore this." "What have you been doing?" said Eliza on my return. "Never mind. Your mother has given you a new jacket. Let me have the pleasure of giving you a new hat." I pressed the 2 coins into her palm. She looked at them and said, "You can't get a hat for a halfpenny, you know, dear." "What did you rush out for just now? And why did you have these 2 farthings gilded? You'll be mistaking them for sovereigns if you're not careful. Were you trying to take me in?" I did not quite see what to say for the moment, so I took her suggestion. I explained that it was a joke. "You don't look much as if you were joking." "But I was. I suppose that I ought to know that if any man does. However, Eliza, if you want a new hat, anything up to half a sovereign, you've only to say it." She said it, thanked me, and asked me to come and help her water the spirea. "Oh, such a shapely spirea," she said. "Yes," I answered sadly, "it's a regular plant." And so it was, though I had not been intending what the French call a double entendre at the time. He's so... The Mopworths. I must say that both Eliza and myself felt a good deal of contempt for the Mopworths. We had known them for 3 years, and that gave us a claim. Peter Mopworth was a connection of Eliza's by marriage, and that also gave us a claim. Further, our social position gave us a claim. Nevertheless, the Mopworths were to have their annual party on the following Wednesday, and they had not invited us. "Upon my soul," I exclaimed, "I never in my life heard of anything so absolutely paltry." "I can't think why it is," said Eliza. "Oh, we're not good enough for them. We all know who his father was. We all know what he is. A petty provincial shopkeeper. A gentleman holding important employment in one of the principal mercantile firms in the city isn't good enough for him. If I'm permitted to clean his boots, I'm sure I ought to be thankful. Oh, yes, of course, no doubt. You do get so sarcastic, observed Eliza. That's nothing to what I should be if I let myself go. But I don't choose to let myself go. I don't think he's worth it, and I don't think she's worth it either. It's a pity, perhaps, that they don't know that they're making themselves ridiculous. But it can't be helped. Personally, I shan't give the thing another thought. That's the best thing to do, said Eliza. Of course it is. Why trouble one's head about the people of that class? And I say, Eliza, if you meet that Mopworth woman in the street, there's no occasion for you to recognize her. That would look as if we were terribly cut up because we hadn't been asked to their party. Possibly. Whereas I don't even think it worth talking about. We discussed the Mopworths and their party for another hour and a half, and then went to bed. Oh, they got cut sublime. It's kind of nice. In a little bit, it's nice seeing her get a little bit wound up about it too, though. Lying awake last night, I said at breakfast next morning, I couldn't help thinking over the different things we had done for those serpents. What serpents? Those contemptible Mopworths. I wonder if they have any feelings of shame. If they have, they must blush when they think of the way they have treated us. I can't think why they've left us out. Perhaps it is a mistake. Not a bit of it. I've been expecting this for some time. Of course he has made his money. I don't say. I would rather not say how he has made it. But it seems to have turned his head. However, after this, I shall probably never mention him again. Eliza began to talk about the weather. I had told her that Mopworth had done things which, personally, I should have been very sorry to do, and that I should be reluctant to adopt his loud style of dress. But of course, I said, no gentleman ever does dress like that. Eliza said that if I intended to catch my train, I had better start. I started. On my return, I said to Eliza that, though the whole subject was distasteful to me, there was one point to which I had given a few moments' consideration. Reluctant though I was to sully my lips with the name of Mopworth, I felt it a duty to myself to say that even if the Mopworths had asked us to their annual party, I should have refused point blank. Really? Said Eliza. This annoyed me slightly. She ought to have seen, without being told, that it was impossible for people like us to continue to know people like them. I am accustomed, I replied, to say just exactly what I mean. As far as I can remember, I have lately more than once asked you to drop the Mopworths. If I have not actually done it, it has been in my mind to do so. They are connected to us by marriage, and I am not unduly proud, but still I feel that we must draw the line somewhere. I do not care to have Mopworth bragging about the place that he is on intimate terms with us. Well, said Eliza, there aren't such a lot of people who ever ask us to anything. Miss Sakers is friendly, of course, especially when there are subscriptions on for the Bazaar or the New Organ, but she doesn't carry it to that point. Quite so, I said, and I'm by no means certain about Miss Saker. She may be all right. I hope she is. But I candidly confess that I by no means like her manner. At this moment the girl brought in a note, delivered by hand, from Miss Mopworth. It said that she had sent an invitation to Eliza, but had no reply. She felt so certain that the invitation must have been delayed in the post, which was not surprising considering the season, that she had ventured to write again, though it might be against etiquette. She hoped that we should both be able to come, and said that on the previous occasion I had been the life and soul of the party. Well, I said, Eliza, what would you like to do? Oh, I'm going, she replied. Then if you insist, I shall go with you. I've never had a word to say against Mrs. Mopworth. It is true that he is not in every particular what should I care to be myself? Possibly he has not had my advantages. I do not want to judge him too harshly. My dress clothes are put away with my summer suit in the second drawer in the box room. Just put them to the fire to get the creases out. And Eliza, write a friendly note to Mrs. Mopworth, implying that we had never heard of the party. I saw from the first that the omission was a mistake. Eliza went away smiling. Women are so variable. It looks like we're about 5/8 of the way through this. And there's about 10 minutes to go. So I thought I'd probably stop now in the hopes of having most of a reading next week. Oh, this has been a roller coaster and such a change of pace from the previous book. Thank you for this, Montrose. It's great. We'll polish off the rest next week. There'll probably be about half an hour or something left over as well. So, if push comes to shove, we'll throw in like a little English as she has wrote or something. And not a single and lo. If only Willow was here. Seriously, this feels like one of those sitcoms like in the 70s or maybe 80s or something where there's always one guy scheming up schemes and the schemes always come to naught. And everybody knows. I can't give you a specific example. It's just a general trope that's just stuck in my head. Man, this guy. Oh. It's amazing. And it is kind of sublime. Hey guys, I got a plan. We can win the dance-a-thon, but I just need $20 to do it. Okay, I'm in. Alrighty. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I feel a little lighter of spirit this time too. Not to say I really did like chunks of that previous book, and it would be fun to find something that's really atmospheric and maybe has, fewer toes and long rambles about the nature of love. I think we all have an idea about it at this point. I'm going to note we're going to start at the pen. The pen weeper. We pay. Okay. On that note, I gotta go buy me some groceries. We gotta go. She's gotta finish toiling the cake mines. I gotta go buy food. This is a no toast channel. I should add that as a rule at some point. If this comes up, it's definitely getting added as a rule. Everybody must agree, no toast. I mean, they're fine. Just they're acceptable. Just not. I feel like this dude now just going on long tirades. Which of us loves the other more kind of tirades? Anyway, thank you. Cheerio. See you all next week. Boo!